and REST API at the end of the day, right? End of the day, you are going to develop an API in the Anypoint Studio. And before you are putting some extra stuff, putting RAML, creating the policy, something, blah, blah, blah. But apart from the add-ons, the main thing you are going to do is you are going to implement your business use case in the no business use case, and you are going to implement that logic using Anypoint Studio and develop your API. Correct. So when it comes to the API development, and in terms of MuleSoft, so it has four main things I could say. So it's like Flow, you will be using it most of the time, and subflow and private flow. Both are one and the same, and mostly these subflows and private flows are used in your API to develop a reusable component. Yeah. And how we are going to reference that subflows are the private flows? There is a term called flow reference. You are aware of that, right? Using that flow reference, you are going to refer any private flow, subflow, or a flow. Yeah. As the name implies, it will refer, it will go to that, it will pass the control to that relevant subflow or flow or private flow. Yeah, you got that? So, yeah, flow is a sequence of message processor. Hope you're able to see my slides. Yeah. Flow. What's a flow? The flow contains a sequence of processor. What's a processor? Anything that which is present in the mule palette. You will be adding a logger or a HTTP listener or a request or etc. etc. Yeah, that's we call it as a processors. So which will process your payloads. That's called a processor. Yeah. A flow is a sequence of message processors. So it will process your message, as per the processor, in a mule application representing the path that message flow. So I am not sure whether how many different patterns you might know by now. So there are different patterns available. I will tell you. First, we'll go with the flow. Flow will start from the starting. Starting means, let me go to that. Okay, let me complete this slide. Then we'll go to the Anypoint Studio. Yeah. So flow is a sequence of message processor in a mule application representing the path that message follow. Yeah. Use cases. No? Handles the data integration, transformation, and routing. That's what we are going to majorly do in MuleSoft. Correct. And subflow. Subflow, as I told you, it's a reusable component that you can extract a part or of your flow. You can extract and made it as a subflow. Why you're doing that? That you can use it in multiple places in your same flow or your different flow or your different file. Yeah. Why? What is the main purpose of using subflow? It's a reusable component. It's to reduce the duplication. Some logic, for example, if you are having a 4 resource, yesterday, let's take the same example, the customer API. Yeah. So if you are having some logic for accessing, let's say, your customer data, which is present in a database, DB, right? In order to access your DB, say, for example, let's say you want to, provide a token to connect to your database. Yeah. So let's say you follow your flow as 4 operations. One is create the customer, update the customer, delete the customer, etc. For any of the operation, you want to connect to the database and perform that operation, correct? If you want to create a user, you want to obviously connect to the database and create the user. And if you want to update the user, that also you are going to connect to the database and update the user. Delete also similarly. So let's say if you are using a token in each of the places where you are going to connect to database. So that token generation is common for all the three flows, correct? Instead of putting that token in each of the three flow, you have to make it as a reusable subflow. And you can just refer it by using a flow reference. That reduces your duplication and make your application more modular. You got that? And private flow is also doing the same thing, same job. A private flow is a flow that can be used within the application where it is defined. Yeah. Private flows encapsulate the logic and are not exposed for external use, which means wherever you're creating the private flow, that flow which resides in the same file and can be referenced within that only, not outside your application. Yeah. Sorry, what is that? Yeah, I will tell you. No worries. Yeah. So as of now, you consider subflow and private flow doing the same job. Yeah. I will tell you what is the difference now. So if you go to the next slide, so all three can be referenced from a flow reference. Correct. Yeah. Flow or a subflow or private flow, everything, whatever it may be. So everything has to be, can be referenced from a flow reference. Yeah. So I have told you private flow and subflow both are doing the same job. But what is the difference between the two? Why they are naming it different? Because the subflow don't have an even source, and the major difference is the subflow does not contain error handling. This is the most important point to remember. Yeah. Private flow, it's a flow, it's also does not have the even source, and it's having the error handling part. Okay, so the main difference between subflow and private flow is that subflow does not have the error handling part, and private does have the error handling part. Are you clear with that? Yeah. And the unique similarity between subflow and private flow is that both does not have the even source. What is mean by even source? The trigger point. What is mean by the trigger point? Anything which is a HTTP listener or a SAP, scheduler or anything which starts your flow. So both subflow and private flow does not have the even source, and the difference between the subflow and private flow is that subflow does not have the error handling. Private flow does have the error handling. Clear, right? So let's go to the AnyPoint Studio, and I will show you one use case where we have done that. Let's take the same example, SAPI customer profile API. Yeah. So if you open that SAPI customer profile API, now you are going to tell me which is a subflow, which is a private flow, and you have to tell me which is a subflow. Yeah. So let's take this page, and there are two things available here. Yeah. You just tell me. So we have discussed 4 components today, right? Let's see how far you have understand this. So can you any wild guess? Sorry, if even if it's wrong, that's okay. So can you tell me like which? Can you identify which is what or what is what? Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. And all the other things are. Mm-hmm. May I know why it is a private flow? Okay. Mm-hmm. And do you see any no subflow here? Okay, so just a small correction to your answers. So this first two will replicate the flow, just the flow. Yeah. Why is this? Because it has the listener. Just simple. It has the listener. If a flow which has any trigger, it's a listener or a scheduler or a MQ, it will be a flow, just a flow. Yeah. Here, if you see, so it contains a listener and also the error handling. Error handling by default it will come. Okay. So it this app this API main and API console both are having the listener. So we call it as a flow, just a flow. Yeah. And this delete, patch, get, if you observe this page, none of them have the source. Source means you can see a, here your text you can see, right? Which is like, this text is shown, it's a source. Under this section, this is, if I will tell you. So this section does not contain any component. I mean, no source is present. If you observe, all the resources have the same thing, does not have the source, but it contains error handling. You can see, right? The error handling, error handling, right? So we call these resources a private flow. Why? Why can't a subflow? Because I told you, correct. Correct. That's absolutely right. So if anything have does not contain a source and it has the error handling, it is a private flow. Flow, it contains the source and as well as error handling. It's called a flow. And I will, this is a flow reference you might know. Yeah? No need of major explanation about that, right? Let me go to one subflow. Oh, my bad. Yeah. If you see this retrieve customers, have you see any source part here? So actually, if you see, there is one divider is between the source and the processors. If you see here, if you see here, a small line will be there. Dot 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 straight, a small line, minute line. Yeah, you see that? Yeah. So here, if you see, there is no line which is separating the source and the processors because it does not have the source. It contains only the processors. That's why there is no division between the source and the processors. And does it contain any error handling here? No, right? Simple. It's just a box and it contains a list of processors. Correct? This is called a subflow. Now you understand which is flow, which is a private flow, which is a subflow. Yeah. Are you confident, right? So when I say subflow, it's just a small box contains a processors, sequence of processors. When I say, yeah, when I say go to that private flow, you should open this one wherever it says it does not contain the source and also it has the error handling part. Clear, right? And why we need to define a subflow and why we need to define a private flow? That's a question. Good question, right? Why can't we use the same subflow or private flow all over the place? You can that's what, like, why we need to use a subflow and why we need to put a private flow. We can use a private flow everywhere and don't use the error handling inside that. It can be empty, right? The purpose of using subflow is I don't want a error handling part. Correct? Right. So the answer is, So wherever you don't need a error handling for this, you can go for the subflow. And if you want for this logic, if any error happens in any of the component, let's say customer ID, here error occurs. And if you want to handle that error, you want an error handling, correct? In that case, you want to go for private flow. Let's say here the implementation part, let's say the error occurs at the response payload, this component, and I don't want to handle this error. Let it be handled by the main flow. Yeah. So if I don't want that error to be handled in this box, then I can go for a subflow, vice versa. So the private flow where you want to use whenever you want that logic and any error happens in that logic, if you want to handle that error there itself, you want to go to the private flow. And subflow, if any error happens in the sequence of processor and you don't want to handle that error there, then you can go for the subflow. Yeah. Now I will show you one more thing. The flow control, how the control flows. Both. You can use private flow and subflow in your implementation. Nothing wrong in that. But I said, only difference is like wherever your logic needs the error handle, you need to put a private flow. Here I have implemented all as a subflow because I don't want to handle any error here. Yeah. So if you want to handle error handling in the same place, you can put a private flow. If you don't want to handle the error here, I don't want the private flow. I can put a subflow. Why? I have all the errors will be routed back to the main flow, this here. And why? We have a common global error handling. That is why I have not put any error handling. I have not handled any errors here. Whenever the error happens here, it will go back to the main flow and handled by the this common global error handler. I will tell you. Yeah. Let me create a new project called error flow API. I'm not going to touch down, the error handling part now because we have a separate session over that. Let's just focus on the flow, subflow, private flow. Yeah. You can see, right? Flow, subflow. Flow and subflow here you can see, right? Where it is present under the core. Yeah, we see here, if we scroll down, you can see, right? Flow and subflow. And why, if you search for private flow, it will not be available. Why? Because flow and subflow are one and the same. Flow and private flow are one and the same. And just the private flow does not have the source part. So this is so now this is what? Flow or subflow? You tell me. Yes. But here I have not put anything, so we can't be able to decide what is what. Let's say if I'm going to put a listener to the source and one logger here and one transfer message and another transfer and another logger. Here this will set, I will set this as a default 8081 slash, I will keep it as flow. Yeah. So here inside main flow. Yeah. Here I will do JSON payload. Here main flow ended. Yes. So our thing is complete. So this is a flow. Because why? It has the source, listener, and also it has the error handling. Yeah. So I have not defined any error handler, but it contains the error handling part. If you want, you can define that. It has the provision. You can be able to define the error handling. For now, I am keeping it empty. I'm not concentrating on the error handling part. Just I'm saying it contains the error handling part. If you want, you can configure that. Yeah. The main thing to understand is it contains the error handling. You can, but it is empty for now because I have not configured anything, right? This is a flow. It has the listener and the sequence of processor here. So let's say, yeah, I'm dragging again a flow. Yeah. And placing again one logger and non-transfer message and one logger, right? This is private flow started, and this is ended. And here JSON you put no inside flow. Yeah. So see here, this is a private flow, and this is a flow. We can say main flow. What is nothing wrong in that? You got that? So how we will ref. Mhm. Hmm. That's that we are going to see now. How it is, the control is going there from one place to another place. So how we will refer some private flow from your main flow? How will refer? Which component will refer that? So how you will refer your private flow in your main flow? Any guesses? That's right. So you can click on that flow reference and drag it. Say, for example, before the logger, I want to refer this private flow in my main flow. I told you, right? This is the listener. It contains the listener. I will say this is the flow. This is where my flow starting, right? I want to refer my private flow in my main flow. You got that? So I will be putting my flow reference here. If you ask me why I need to put here, why not here or here, that is my wish. I want to refer my private flow just before the logger.
But it doesn't have any connection. You mean like if I want to put my flow reference before the transform message,
Hmm.
that is not acting anything.
So that is the purpose. So here, what is the point you want to refer? Here I want to show you for some demo. I will tell you. Yeah, just understand the sequence for now. So how will you refer this private flow? Just to drag and drop the flow reference in your main flow. And once done, you can see right in the flow name, there is a drop down, right? You can click on it. It shows both, right? Here you need to select the private flow and control save. Yeah. So what it will do now, it will start, it will start from here. I will tell you. So let me comment, let me debug that. Let me open the postman. Okay. Yeah. Can you tell me how to frame the URL for this, for our flow? HTTP colon slash slash slash, what is that? How you say? Path. Where you need to find the path? No. You need to go to the listener. Yeah, this is where you can click on the listener and see the path. What is the path here? Slash flow, right? So after 8081, it will be slash flow and nothing we are giving. Yeah, body will give one body, and that will be a, we will pass some JSON body. Let's take some sample. Hmm. Let's say I'm going to pass this payload, this input to my API. Yeah. For explanation, I'm going to put a breakpoint at this logger. You can't put a breakpoint for source. Yeah. The next component in the first place, the first component you can put a breakpoint is the logger. If you right click on the source and if you do, there is no breakpoint will be available. If you see, because you can't be allowed. You should not. You can't be put listener for this. Yeah. So I have put my breakpoint for this logger. Let's run. Now what you need to see how the control flows. Yeah. You can see right the arrow mark, little arrow mark from the listener where it comes to the logger, and from this logger where it is going to the transfer message, and from there where it is going to the flow reference. Yeah, but this is commented, so it will straightly go to the final logger. Let's say, yeah, in real time, I'm running this. It came here, correct? Just see the dot 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 box. You can see right the higher box from where it is going. Yeah, it is now in the logger. Now it will go to where? Yeah, it comes to transfer message. If I click next, where it will go? If you see the console, what message it has printed now? Inside the main flow. Correct? You can see that text inside main flow, right? So now I'm going to click on next. Where it comes? From there to here, logger. If I click next, what did it say? Main flow ended. And if you open that, you can get the same response because I have not done any transformation, just to put a payload. So you will get the whatever you pass, you will get the response. Yeah. So just forget about the response and the input. Just understand the sequence. Nothing. So just you're starting here. Here. This, let me run one more time. You understand. You can see. I click on send. Mhm. That's why I told you now. Yeah, that's why I told you now. So here in the transfer message, what I have done. Payload means what? Here. The whatever it is coming, yeah, whatever it is, which is caught by the listener, that is a payload. Hmm. Yes. So here just the payload. I have written payload means whatever it comes from the listener, the same thing will commit as no will be printed as the payload. If I do any modification, your payload, this transfer message, you can see that arrow where it is coming, this arrow from the listener, right? which means what? Whatever you are giving to the listener, it is getting from there and giving to the logger. Logger will not do anything, just it will print the log. Whatever you are here, it is present, it will print. So that is why in the console it has printed the inside main flow. And after that, what it will do, when the payload which is listened by the, I mean the input is picked up by the listener and it is passed to logger. Logger will not do anything. It will just pass on to the next component. So it comes the payload. Payload means it will not do anything. Just it will print whatever it receives, it will print. Same thing. Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, yeah. So if I do some modification plus plus, you know, I will do date. Yeah. That is today's date 25 10 2023. Now what you are doing? You are altering your payload. If it is just payload, whatever it is listened by the listener, it will give the transfer message and it will print finally. Now what you have done? You are appending one value. You are going to add one value to the payload. So you are modifying your payload, right? Let's see. You can see, right? You can see how many lines are there totally. And is there is any date inside? No, right? So whatever, here also same thing, right? Whatever present above, the same thing is present below. Why? Because previously we put just the payload, means we have not done any modification to the payload. Whatever it is, it is received by the listener, it just pass on to the transfer message and finally it's printed. Correct? That is why the same thing. Now, as per your wish, I have modified your payload. What I have done the modification, what modification I have done, I just add one more field called date to the payload. Now it should print date after this routing number. Let's see. Yeah. I'm clicking on send. Now it comes here. If you see, what is my payload here? You can see, right? You can always check the debug logger and what is the value at each component. That is why I told you now how to debug. This, don't worry about that. As the class progress, you can be able to understand. Okay. So if you want to understand the first instance, it will be a little difficult, but we have many classes, right? So as the class goes on, you will be able to understand that. Yeah. Just for now, understand. So payload means no modification. If you are doing here, I'm doing the modification, right? If you see the logger is present in this place, right? At this point of time, what is my payload? Whatever I have received, whatever I have sent it through postman, the same thing is appearing here, correct? See, let's see. The logger is passing this payload to the transfer message. That is how the arrow mean, correct? From this point to this point, it is passing whatever it got, the attributes, payloads, and everything the logger got, it will pass on to the next component. That is his job. That is his job. Yeah. Let's click on next. It goes to the transfer message, right? But this is not executed. If it goes on to the next one only, it will get executed, right? Uh, Now, if you see, the logger is executed, correct? The logger is executed and it moves on to the transfer message. So what is the logger? Can see, right? It printed inside main flow because we have kept that value in that. Can see, right? This app, the logger is executed and printed that in the console. Now let's execute this transfer message. You can see, right? Now the transfer message is executed and it passed this value to the logger. Now at this point of time, what is my payload? You see? It should contain. Why it's not coming? Let me recheck. Account number ID. It should come. Let me check that. Mhm. Oh, okay. What I will do, I'm going to stop it and save my flow, and then I will redeploy. Is it? Because my changes are not saved. Yeah. What I done is saved the flow and redeploying it. Let I redeploy. Yeah. Yeah, it's deployed now. Let's see. I'm going to send this request and it comes here. So now I'm executing the logger. The logger is executed and that logger has printed inside main flow message. Yeah. Okay. Now the logger is executed and it has printed the message inside main flow. Right. Now it is in transfer message. If you click on at this point of time, if you click the payload, yes, that's absolutely right. So now we are going to execute the transfer message. In transfer message, what we have done, in additional to this payload, we have added one more field called date. Yeah, let's see. You see, the transfer message is executed. Now it moves on to the logger. So now let's click on this. You see, yeah, this is what. So it printed, and now I'm clicking on next. So this logger is also executed. What is present in the logger? Main flow ended. So from where to where the control passed? From logger to transfer message to logger. Correct? Now I'm going to refer my private flow in my main flow. You can see, right? I put a flow reference here and I'm calling this private flow. You see now how the control is going. Yeah, now it's complete. I'm clicking on send. It comes here, correct? I'm clicking on next, see where it is going, transfer message. Next, where it will go? Next, where it will go? Yeah, that's right. So if you see, if I click on next, it comes to the private flow. Yeah. So if I execute this logger, if you see, what is the message printed? Print private flow started, which is present in the logger. That is, it has printed that message. Yeah. Now what I have done in the transfer message? I have printed a message inside private flow, right? So if you click now, the payload is whatever till date. till now, right? If I click on next, it will modify. If I click on payload, you can see, right? Because in this place I have modified, right? Now next, you see private flow ended. And if you click on next, you see control where it entered. First, it is inside the main flow, and it goes to the flow reference. It has come to the private flow and printed the message. Private flow started, and private flow ended, and then main flow ended. Yeah, now you understand, right? Now let me do one subflow. How we will add the subflow? You will search for the sub, where it is. Let's see flow. You can see, right? Subflow. And putting on subflow, it is, I can name it as a subflow. And here, nothing. I am using logger, and I will say subflow started, and I will put a transfer message. I will say inside subflow, and I'll put one more logger which says subflow ended. Yeah, let it run. And also flow reference to private flow. And also I am referring this subflow. How you will refer? Just place a flow reference and here drag and drop, select the subflow.
In
Mhm.
like in between main flow anywhere, it doesn't alter your flow, right? It doesn't mean like after the transfer message it will go to flow reference, private flow, and then again flow reference.
Yes, it definitely it alters.
Okay, okay,
What it will alter, I have shown, right? At this point of time, my input is something, whatever I have sent it, and along with that date, right?
okay.
And now in the private flow, I am transforming the data.
Okay, okay, okay. Got it. Clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, one second. Use, oh, it's not all place check. That's done. Yes. Now I click on flow. Oh, I think I have not ran in the debug mode. Let me do it in debug mode quickly. Just understand how the control flows from one place to another. Yeah. I told private flow and say subflow are one and the same, but the subflow does not contain the error handler. You can see here, right? Clearly, here this private flow has the error handling. Subflow does not have the error handling. That is the important point you need to understand. Where you need to use, how you need to use, that you will understand as you're, doing the development work. No worry about that. Don't worry about that. Yeah. See, I am going to send this request. So it is listened and captured here. Okay. At this point of time, what is the payload? What are you sent? Correct. Now I click on the transfer message. If you see the logger is executed, what it has print inside the main flow. Correct. Yeah. Now I click on next. Now the transfer message is executed. Yeah. Is processed. Now you see the modified, right? The payload. Now you see date is also added. The transfer message is executed and it passed the control to flow reference. Correct. Now what it will do? It will go to the private flow. You can see, right? It comes to here. Now the control comes to here and let's see, let's execute this logger. Yeah, the logger is printed. You can see private flow started. Now what is present in the transfer message inside private flow? At this point of time, you can see the payload. If I execute this transfer message, this will be replaced by this. Okay. Here, here I have put the transfer message. Na? So now I have not executed this transfer message. It is still in the transfer message. At this point of time, your payload is the modified one. I mean the date one. Yeah. So if I execute this, it will be replaced by this. Whenever you do the transfer message and you do whatever inside that, it will modify, it will transform. That is the purpose of transfer message. Right? Here I have placed one transfer message and written a content inside private flow. Now, let's see, if I execute, click on next, you see, the older one is replaced with the new one. What is the new one? Inside private flow. Got right? And it passed the control to the end logger. If I click on this, if you see what it has printed, private flow ended, ended. Now what it has done? Subflow, right? Let's see. You notice like what is the payload now? Inside private flow. Yeah. Now you click on next. It goes to subflow. What is present in the subflow? First logger, subflow started, right? But it is not but I have not executed now. It is just here at this point. If I click next, you see subflow started, right? Now, if you see at this point of time, what is my payload? Inside flow. But here I have modified again the payload with inside subflow. Let's see if you can keep in the console. If I click on next, you see my older payload is replaced with the new payload. Yeah. And now I'm clicking on next. It will print the subflow ended. And if I execute this component also, it will say the main flow ended. That's it. You got it? Or do you want to run again? That's it, right? Yeah. Yeah. So this is how. So the main purpose of this, like you need to understand from where to where the control flows, what is my private flow and what is my subflow and what is the flow reference. Yeah. I'm going to stop it here. So this is a today's sessions. This ends the today's session. So